I would encourage you to do a workout in the morning before a speech. I would encourage you to do a run, a lift, some yoga, go for a walk. You have to do some type of strenuous physical activity before you go on stage, because it will enable you to go on stage calm.
And be well hydrated.
And be well hydrated, and your brain will be active and flooded full of BDNF, and you'll be able to think better. And there's a tangible difference on the days that I get to a location early, wake up, work out, fuel, and then go on stage, versus when I don't. I strongly encourage you to do that.
If you're looking to be more creative and playful with your own blocking and staging in presentations, don't change everything. Change 1 to 2 things in every presentation.
Yeah.
The starting place I'd look at is, where is a piece of your content that you're remarkably comfortable with, that you know that lands remarkably well, and your delivery of that, whether you do it good, bad, or indifferent, is still going to come out and deliver the main point. You're not going to lose your flow from playing with this piece. And start to think about, well, how could I make this point if I'm not using the slide? If that AV goes down, what would I do with my body? What could I use as a prop? How do I use the room? How do I add physiology towards this? How can I add some intimacy? Like, you start actually forcing constraints on yourself. And if you've ever seen me do the chair piece where I talk about motivation and discomfort, etc., that wasn't a one-time idea. That was an evolution of ideas over a period of time. If you've heard me tell the pen story a number of times, that we get to the laugh line and the build-up, like the insertion of the third act in that, where it goes from one to the next, and then it goes to the next, I probably delivered that piece 100 times before I realized this is better if I add the Harrods piece on the top of the next piece. It took me 50 reps to realize that Pierre is the funniest name. I tried like dozens of other names, they just weren't as funny, but the punchline to get to it, where there is no slides, there is no point, the whole thing is storytelling through the punchline, you have to test and measure, test and measure, test and measure. You don't get sharp in the training room. You use the training room to make conscious decisions to say, what am I going to try differently next time? And then you've got test and measure. But I tried Edward and Colin and girls' names and other names, and it wasn't until like, I'm going to try like a French name. And it was twice as funny. Like the laugh was like, it was immeasurably different in terms of funny. And that's the play. Mike's question on closing speeches. How do you think about closing, Greg?
It's one of the most important things, landing the talk. It's the area that I struggle with personally the most. And I'm challenging myself to stick the landing on emotion. So thank you for letting me do that today. Today was a practice session on that. You asked the question, and I was like, oh God, here we go. I've got to do this because I'm committed to trying to finish with emotion. I'm now going to tell this emotional story that's deeply painful. And so I did that to try to stick the landing on something to do with emotion, which is incredibly difficult, because in order to be emotional, you have to be emotional, and to do that in front of 1,000 people is not the easiest thing. To then walk it back, regain control, and finish with, here's how you get in touch with me on Instagram, is the art, right? So, I try to stick the landing on emotion, because I want people to feel something when I'm done. And that's what embeds neurologically the learning into the brain, because without the emotion, it doesn't get embedded into your hippocampus. So I do that.
So here's some things to not finish your presentation with. Don't finish your presentation with a here's how you can find out more about me. Don't finish your presentation with a request for questions. Don't finish your presentation with a, like, how did I do? Was this awesome? Some form of self-validating question that you're looking to be able to get, like, was I good enough as a response when you're looking to finish. If you have any of that to do in your presentation, look to do it about 2/3 in. And you want to hope you've delivered enough value 2/3 in that you can put some call to actions and position it as a almost contextual story. You know, in our 60 minutes today, no doubt some of you are going to come up with questions. You've probably got questions in your mind right now that you'd like to see answers for. And you're also aware that you're not going to get the chance or the window to have your questions answered one-on-one in our time here together today. Who's got a cell phone? Right? And now we're getting people to open up your Instagram account. I'm at Phil M. Jones UK. Come here And if you've got a question, that's the place to ask it. And when I'm on my flight home tonight, I'll get to the best I can back to every single one of your questions. But the last thing you wanted me to finish my presentation on today was telling you to follow me on Instagram. And then give yourself the chance to be able to build towards a finish again. I will never accept Q&A at the end of a presentation.
Me neither.
Won't do it.
Ever.
Even when the event organizers say, and then we want to end with a 15-minute
Nope.
Q&A,
Yeah.
you say no.
Well, no, what I say is I say why. It's a very honest question. I say, why? And they're like, I don't know. Most of the time, I don't know. Is there an intention behind finishing in a Q&A? Is there some reason why that's the perfect way you want this to end? And they're like, no. I say I have an interactive presentation style. If there are immediate questions, they're likely to come up during the event. What I found in my experience of delivering over 3,000 presentations, if we end in a Q&A, it doesn't end where you want it to be able to end. And someone's going to ask a question that is going to be less than helpful to most of the room. And we're going to find ourselves in a situation of how do we answer it? Are you looking to be able to finish with an awkward Q&A, or would you rather I land the plane exactly where you need me to land the plane? You choose.
And just to leverage that, pull on that thread just a touch, I also don't do Q&A at the end. I try to integrate it throughout. And your question about landing the finish, I think that it's important to pay attention to the audience in the last 10 minutes because you might have the perfect closing already and then you keep going. So if you ever are 10 minutes to go and everyone's just had a great laugh or there's a great emotional moment, that's a perfect time to be like, thanks very much, everyone, and I'm out. And then everyone will be like, ah. But when you go back and you keep going, everyone's like, oh, there's more. So I would encourage you to just be attentive, pay attention. You may already have the epic closing. Just let it happen. So, yeah.
And you have to be ready to land the plane at multiple different times.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can find you think you've got an hour and then you get something ping up on the clock or on the downstage monitor. They're like, yeah, wrap up now.
Yeah.
And it could just be an error on their end, but you have to respect the clock.
Yeah.
So it means that you need to be ready to land the plane. And that might mean you didn't get through all your slides. So don't apologize for not getting through all your slides. Learn to finish at multiple points in your presentation.
Yeah. And on that note, if someone runs over before you and it looks like you're not going to have time, I always ask them, do you want me to go the hour or do you want me to finish on time? And sometimes take your hour, and sometimes we need you done at 4:30. I'm like, I'll be done at 4:30. So just check on that too.
So do you prep for more land? In terms of the presentation, are you cutting it short and putting in ending points within that so that you can actually do it at the right time? I mean, I'm asking.
I can end a speech at about 30 different points in a presentation.
Yeah.
You have to have default closing statements as well.
What would that sound like?
So I could say, ladies and gents, this has been a ton of fun. We scratched the surface on the areas of conversation and communication today. I hope you found it fun. I hope you found it useful. I hope that you're going to put something, at least one thing today, into practice. Above all else, I wish you all the success in the world that you're prepared to work for. Done. So you have to have a series of closing lines that you're like, I know how to zip it up, that even if you get you got 15 seconds, where the audience know that closed exactly where it was supposed to close. And you can do things even with your slide decks that you can program them, that you can key it where it will jump straight to final slide as well if you ever need it to, etc. You can go straight to black if you need to. You can keep whatever slide was there and decide that was the holding slide. The AV crew know what to do when you're done. Jody?
So this is for both of you, energy physiologically wise. Talking about time, you said, so I was there at 4:15 in the morning checking everything out before my speech, my presentation. So it is a struggle. We're traveling, we're different places, we're different time zones. They want you there late at night before the audience gets there in the morning for a mic check. Then they want you there early in the morning for a mic check before the audience comes in before breakfast. How the heck do you manage energy physiologically, time, protection? How do you do that?
So I default back to how we prepare athletes. So for the Olympics, that on August 12th at roughly 7 p.m., you're going to have your race 4 years out. So 4 years out, you know exactly the time that you have to be good. And you have lots.
Kyle was laughing
Kyle,
there.
sorry, buddy. Kyle's like, dude!
Finally feel seen.
I'm so sorry, buddy. Oh, I just ruined Kyle's day. I'm so sorry, buddy. But I'm
Sorry.
yeah. But we hypothetically have a plan that theoretically you can prepare for. And what I've always thought about is that reverse engineering back from the performance is easier than like trying to plan what I'm going to do in sequence. So if I know that reversing back, I know that 10 minutes before I'm not really speaking to anybody and I'm deep focused and I'm trying to get my energy levels up. I know that 15 to 20 minutes out, I'm probably drinking a little bit of water and just finding my location. I know where I want to be, usually on the side. You might notice like I either sit at the back or I sit off on the side, like I'm even doing it here for where I'm comfortable. Half an hour out, I'm probably double checking all of my technology to make sure that that's set up. An hour before I come in and make sure that I'm mic'd up and all those sorts of things. I get into the environment so I can get a feel for the room. Like I know reverse engineering out exactly what I want to be doing. But I also do it in such a way that my energy ramps up and I do not try to maintain high levels of energy the entire time. So at mic check, I'm just going up and saying, this morning for breakfast, I ate blah, 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 and sounds like that's good. Can you guys hear me at the back? So my energy is quite calm. I will get into the gym, try to work out. I will make sure that I'm fueling 3 hours before. I do not eat within 3 hours of an event. And so I really have it quite well scripted out in terms of how I want to feel and what I want to do to be on stage doing the best that I possibly can. Then if anything happens, which has happened, speech is scheduled for 2 o'clock, speaker doesn't show up. They're like, you're in your room, it's 9:30, and they're like, we need you on stage in 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, throw on the suit, go downstairs, and I know that I'm at my 30 minutes out time point. This means that I'm drinking my water, I'm doing my thing. Like you just drop into whatever stage that you're at to enable you to keep moving forwards. But I would encourage you to have a very detailed script that you run for yourself, your protocol that you run to prepare for a speech, just like Kyle would have a protocol that he runs to prepare for a triathlon, right? That way there's no guessing, and as much as possible you control that. And of course you're gonna have to do mic checks and sound checks and speak to people, but then you know what you want to be doing and you try not to deviate from that. And people respect it as long as it's communicated.
Don't be afraid to run your plan as well, not theirs.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I'm doing 2 AV checks. I'm doing the one that I needed to do to get ready for me, and I'm doing the one that helps them feel happy that I'm there and like they've got what they need. And I try to do them separately. I don't need to know that my microphone's going to work. That's not my job.
Yeah.
My slide decks are almost always so simple that I'm not really concerned that a great deal could go wrong. And if it did, I'm cool with it. I lock every font in as a JPEG. I'm like, there's no videos, there's no audio. Like anything that could go wrong in a slide deck almost can't go wrong. So I'm not that worried about it. I don't need an AV check for me. And I'll only do a rehearsal. If a client wants to get me to do a rehearsal, I'm very happy to do it. Here's my condition. You get me an audience, I'll give you a rehearsal. I'm not doing a rehearsal to 6 people in a 800-person room and expecting that to go well. Like, I'm not into that. It doesn't help them, it doesn't help me. So my condition is get me an audience, I'll give you a rehearsal. Get me an audience and a fee, again, we call it 2 presentations, right? It's like we can do this twice, but I'm not gonna do certain things. Give thought to what you can control ahead of time in your rider for preferences. And we put things in like about I'm going to want a chair as a prop. Now I don't always use it, but that's there. We're going to put things in that we don't want lecterns, podiums, other things on the stage. Well, I asked for 2 bottles of room temperature still water. I want a bottle because I don't want a glass, because a glass is like, it's clunky, it's awkward, it could hit a microphone, it could spill, it's uncomfortable. Do I always use the bottles of water? No, I next to never do. But when they say to me, oh, we've got your room temperature water, my first thought is, you sound so prissy asking for room temperature water. My second thought is, they've read it, they understood it, they're on the same team, they're looking at details, we're good. And control as many of those controllables as you possibly can. The one piece that manages my energy more than anything is seeing the room before I go to bed. I don't really want to see it in the morning. I want to see it before bedtime. That's why I was in the Tom Ferry room at 4:30, is because the room wasn't built. It was still uni and stuff. They were still putting things into play. I wanted to see it the night before. I kind of couldn't. And worse than that, they were trying to explain what they were doing whilst they're building the scaffolding at the same time. I'm like, this isn't helping my nerves. Like, the room isn't even built yet. Don't know what I'm doing with that. Didn't sleep well. But I'm okay not sleeping well and enjoying the nervous energy that's attached towards a big event, knowing that I'm going to have to protect my energy after it. And then I control other distractions, like what else could talk into my life when I'm working with a high stakes environment. Like, here's how Charlotte knows I'm alive. We share location. Like, she know I got back to my hotel room because I might send a message that is proof of life, love you. Like, there can be simple code and language around the people that we care about where you can communicate with brevity and understand that that is a love language in moments like that, where you don't feel a unnecessary burden to be somewhere else other than where you're at in those environments, and that helps me manage energy a huge amount. And then the biggest thing that helps me manage energy in that is to remember why I'm doing it. It's like access the I give a shit about this moment for these people energy. And without that, if you think it's your presentation and your work and your message and your special, you're going to burn out. But when it's for them and that moment and you're nervous about being able to make sure that you deliver to that, you feel a sense of duty, and any of the like nerves and lack of energy seem to disappear. It does catch up on you though, which is why you then build rituals around, like, I'm horrible when I travel. You guys talk to people up, like on airplanes and trains, and like you talk to, what's wrong with you? That's my recharge time. Like, I want a baseball cap on, I want a hood up, I want to be as invisible as possible. Yeah, I wear noise reducing headphones, like my AirPods in, there's no music playing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do not talk to me.
Yeah.
And that helps me recharge too.
And on that note, I would also encourage you, your post-event routine to recharge is just as important as your pre-event routine to get ready. So please have a plan in place for the fact that you're going to be tired, you're going to be pumped full of adrenaline. How do you recharge? How do you recover afterwards to enable you to function the next day, right? So I'm here all day, flying home tonight. Tomorrow morning, I have nothing. I know that I'm not going to get any work done tomorrow morning. I actually have to take Ingrid to swimming at 4:20, but I'm going to get in the water and swim too. So that's my recovery time, but I know that tomorrow morning I'm just going to need to chill, plus have anti-inflammatory nutrition because I've been on an airplane, and like, we need to protect our recovery and regeneration as much as we protect our performance to get you back to baseline as quickly as you possibly can. Because if you care and you perform, it does take a toll in a good way. So please have a recovery plan in place for you as well.
Vocal care in terms of, yes.
I'm sorry?
Vocal care.
Huge. Yeah.
Here's what to not do. Speak all the time, drink alcohol, badly dehydrate, travel a ton on trains, have bad sleep, and do the things that I do. So listen to Greg.
Yeah.
Except you drink still water.
Yeah. What to do.
Yeah,
And if
what
you
to
notice
do.
that the day after a speech, like tomorrow my voice will be shattered,
Right.
I'm not going to talk to people tomorrow. I'll say hello to my kids and all that, the usual stuff, but all day long, like, I'm not going to do phone calls, I'm not going to record any videos, I'm going to really try to recover as much as I can. And I actually did get vocal lessons about 5 or 6 years ago from someone. I'm not doing it right now because I'm forgetting to do. It's part of my breathwork stuff that you need to learn how to do, but it's worth getting voice lessons. It's a great investment of your time.
Claire?